Okay, today we're doing a real deep dive, a forensic analysis of a classical commentary on Surah Maryam. We're going to systematically break down just 3 verses. But these 3 verses, wow, they unveil this powerful drama of judgment, mercy, and a single sacred pact that seems to determine everything. So these 3 verses, they're the entire foundation for our analysis. Right away, they paint this incredibly stark picture of the Day of Judgment. You've got 2 groups, the righteous and the criminals, and they're heading towards 2 completely opposite destinies. But right in the middle of it all, there's this one condition that seems to be the key to everything: a covenant with the most merciful. This covenant is what decides who even gets to speak. All right, here's our game plan. We're going to start with that core conflict, the covenant versus the adversary. Then we'll get into the weeds on the adversary's methods before we turn to the divine promise of the merciful. After that, we'll see exactly how this promise plays out when the souls are gathered. And finally, we'll explore what it means to have a voice on a day when pretty much everyone else is silent. So let's jump right into that core conflict. The commentary sets this up like a classic problem and solution scenario, which really helps frame the entire spiritual struggle. First things first, the commentary establishes the problem, and that's the adversary. It references a verse that says devils are actually sent to incite the disbelievers. Now, the key insight here is that this isn't some random act. It's presented as a permitted consequence, something that happens to those who have already decided to turn away from guidance. So Satan's role here is to be an active agitator, but he's only operating within a divine order that's already been established. So if that's the problem, what's the solution? Well, in direct response, the text presents the ultimate defense, the covenant, or ahd. And look, this is not some casual agreement. The commentary is very clear. It defines it as a profound, sacred pact. It's built on faith, it's built on obedience, and it's framed as the ultimate spiritual shield against that adversary. As we're about to see, this covenant is the key to everything else. Building right on that point, the commentary now makes a really critical distinction. It argues that Satan's influence isn't just one big monolithic force. Nope. It actually operates on 2 very different levels, and you have to understand the difference between them. And this slide just captures that nuance perfectly. On one level, you have waswasa, which is whispering. Think of it as general temptation, subtle suggestion. The commentary says this is a universal test of faith that basically everyone experiences. But then there's a much, much deeper level, wilaya, or dominion. This is not just a suggestion, it's a state of control, of authority, and it's presented as the direct result of an individual choosing to turn away from God. And here is the absolute crucial takeaway according to this commentary. This dominion, this wilaya, it is not coercive. It's not established by force. It's only granted over those who consciously and willingly turn to Satan as their guide, as their patron. It's a state that you enter into by your own choice, a direct consequence of abandoning that covenant with God. Okay, so let's see how this all builds toward the promise of salvation. The commentary argues that this whole scene of judgment is framed by the use of a very specific divine name, and this choice is just packed with significance. The commentary actually pauses here to really dissect the specific name that's used, Ar-Rahman, the most merciful. It makes it clear that this isn't just mercy in a small sense. No, this name signifies a vast, boundless, all-encompassing mercy. It's a foundational attribute that in this world actually extends to all of creation, no matter what they believe. And this is why that specific name is so critical here. By saying the righteous are gathered to Ar-Rahman, the verse frames their salvation not as some kind of transactional reward, like a wage paid for services rendered, but as a direct expression of God's infinite mercy. The insight from the commentary is that their reward is literally to be received by mercy itself, and that just elevates the whole encounter from a cold transaction to a warm, divine reception. So now the analysis takes us right to the Day of Judgment, and it paints this incredibly powerful, unbelievably stark contrast between the 2 groups we saw in the verses. The language used to describe how they arrive, it's just so precise and so full of meaning. First, let's look at the fate of the muttaqeen, the pious ones, the ones who upheld that covenant. The verse says they're gathered as wafdan. The commentary explains this word means an honored delegation. I mean, think of ambassadors or esteemed guests arriving for a royal reception. It's all about dignity, respect, and this feeling of being welcomed with honor. And then, in the very next breath, you get the complete opposite. The mujrimin, the sinners, are driven as wirdan. The commentary really digs into this word, explaining that it describes a herd of thirsty animals being prodded and pushed towards a watering hole. Only in this case, it's the fire. The imagery is just one of complete desperation, humiliation, and a total loss of control. And this page from the source material really shows you the forensic depth of this commentary. I mean, look at how it meticulously breaks down the linguistic roots of wafdan and wurdan. It proves how a single word choice can convey an entire universe of meaning about your status and your final destiny. The analysis shows that the difference isn't just where they end up, but the entire way they arrive. Okay, this brings us to our final section, and it really addresses the climax of the whole scene, the question of who gets to speak. Who has the right to plead for another person, to intercede on that day? So the commentary first establishes the baseline condition of that day, overwhelming divine authority, and a profound total silence. All the hierarchies, all the influence you had in your worldly life, it's all rendered completely powerless. The text emphasizes that no one, absolutely no one, has an inherent right or any independent power to speak on behalf of someone else. This divine silence is absolute, but it is broken by one single powerful exception. And this exception brings our entire analysis full circle, tying directly back to that central theme we started with. The only ones who will have the power of intercession, ash-shafa'ah, are those who have taken that covenant with our Rahman, the most merciful. So the crucial point is this. Intercession is not a right you can claim, it's a permission that has to be granted. It's an honor, an act of mercy from the merciful himself. And this divine permission, it's given exclusively to those who fulfilled their sacred pact, who maintain that covenant of faith and obedience throughout their lives. Their loyalty is rewarded with a voice on a day when all other voices are silent. So when you look at it, this whole forensic analysis presents a pretty clear equation, right? Breaking the covenant leads to Satan's dominion and a humiliating end. But upholding the covenant with the merciful leads to an honored reception and the incredible privilege of having a voice on Judgment Day. And that leaves us with one final profound question that turns all this theology into a deeply personal inquiry. How is that covenant actively maintained?